how do you keep order? How do you keep political order? And how do you keep social order? How do you go about creating order and then to maintain such a thing? Having order is to make sure that the status quo never changes and no future changes are ever made.
We must each of us occupy our preordained particular position.
So how does one create such a thing that people willingly follow without there ever being an uprising? To create order is something that will inherently mean some people are at the bottom, that a hierarchy must be set in place, because if everyone is equal, then who decides on the correct system? When everyone becomes an equal, then who decides where the power goes? Because if everyone has power, then no one has power. And when power becomes meaningless, then the hierarchy becomes pointless, and would that mean chaos will take over? A structure has been put in place in society that we all are in a defined class: the poor, the middle, and the wealthy. The end, the middle, and the front. And as time keeps ticking over, the gap between all three is becoming larger and larger, with the wealthy becoming far too apart from the rest. But if that gap keeps growing and nothing changes for the bottom, the question becomes, why hasn't there been any changes? Surely the well-being of the majority is in the interest of everyone. Those at the bottom tier of the hierarchy are the ones that clean your toilets, drive your delivery trucks, and keeps the world moving. Yet the order of play is that those that are at the tail end should feel grateful because they are the ones benefiting from the generosity of the top, from getting jobs to getting paid. Do you feel grateful?
Happy you Katerina Bridge, you filthy ingrates!
Look at all the jobs these wealthy people give us. It shouldn't matter about the conditions because at least they have given us an opportunity. It's what we are supposed to think. Work from the bottom and climb the ladder, and one day you will be at the top. It's a poetic sentiment, but the order that is defined means the hierarchy never changes.
Now, as in the beginning, I belong to the front. You belong to the tail.
It is created to be misleading and to sell a dream. The reality is, no one switches carriages to get closer to the front. We stay in our designated positions. However, the bottom and the top do work symbiotically. One needs the other or both will fail.
The front and the tail are supposed to work together.
The top needs the bottom to keep themselves situated at the peak of the mountain, while the bottom needs the top to survive on the floor. This is done by making the bottom fight each other, letting them squabble inwards instead of using that energy against the top. The bottom squabble about pay rights and work rights, whilst the top continue to feed off the surplus resources of labour that keeps their empire profitable. What about the middle? Situated on the board of the top but still close enough to fear being at the bottom, those there ignore both sides because life is fine. Not suffering nor thriving, just surviving in the middle. They do not question the top and ask if what they do is moral because this could lead them to the bottom.
He's a security expert, he's in the prison section now.
The top also gives them cushy jobs, and without that, they can slide down the hierarchy. But they understand that the bottom are suffering.
All this time we've been eating this shit.
Hey, I eat them too, you know. Every single day.
Because in most cases, those in the middle have also been at the bottom but found a way out.
Are there any experienced violinists here? Raise your hands.
My wife and I played violin in the Boston Symphony Orchestra.
The hierarchy never changes. Never changes for the top. That is the order of the system in place. Like I said earlier, the hierarchy was created to sell a dream that one day you can be at the top. But the top never changes, it's sealed away. That system is there to ignore the problems from the bottom, because look, someone from the bottom rose up to be in the middle, so it isn't that bad, right? A train only works when the sum of its parts also work. Sure, the train was an idea from one man, but who designed it? Who ordered all the materials? Who painted it? Who decorated it? Who screwed on every nail? Who cleaned the windows? Who fitted the chairs and lights? Who drove the vehicles bringing the materials? Who made the cup of teas? Who fed the workers? But yet the power heads to only one, and that is the order. Now only one can make sure the order is kept.
And this train is a closed ecosystem. We must always strive for balance.
Because if everyone who worked on the train was the leader, then chaos would be in play. A singular voice must be heard, not 1,000 at once. A hierarchy so cruel that it can only exist to maintain order when you create boundaries and rules for the less fortunate, because they are the ones desperate enough to work for little and not complain because who else will give them a job. But what happens when one from the bottom, the tail of the train, reaches the top, the front of the train? What happens to the order that has been created and enforced? A rebellion is romantic. The ones being unfairly treated climb as high as they can and topple the fat pigs at the top. But then, what happens? They understand the ferocious, corrupt and disgusting nature of being at the top. To maintain an order you must be cruel, otherwise you yourself will then be overthrown. The train must keep on moving, and that becomes by any means necessary, or your other option is to topple it down and start again, to blow open the gates so that you can rebuild, and that too is cruel. It is cruel to those who are just living without any corruption or bad intentions. But when the hierarchy collapses from the bottom and the top, then the whole structure begins to crumble down. That is why the bottom and the top have to be symbiotic. That is why they need to work together and keep the status quo. The train is only as strong as its engine, and as we have seen, the engine needs the bottom workforce. So now you have taken the top. Do you continue to exploit the bottom, or do you create a new system and a new order? Can you truly make everyone happy and feel like they are in your interest? Because all interests will contradict. There is no perfect answer to this. What we have is a flawed system that keeps the status quo, that keeps the rich getting richer, that allows big corporations to continue to kill our planet, and that makes us feel like we are the problem. Now I'm going to ask you this. Have I been talking about the movie or the real world? You decide.